It's so important to have around. Even just having one lady on the team can shift the dynamics of what's going on with your entire operation. I mean, we're softer. We have a different way of thinking that it's so integral and it's so critical.
Welcome to She Self-Invested. I'm your host, Lodisha, and get ready to tune into your go-to podcast to feel empowered, to show up authentically feminine in male-dominated spaces, while prioritizing spiritual self-care. Let's invest into ourselves together, starting now. Hello, ladies. Welcome back to She Self-Invested. I am so excited for today's episode. We are interviewing our very first guest on the podcast. Today, we're diving into a beautiful story of perseverance, inner strength, and breaking norms in an industry where women are often outnumbered but never outshone. Our guest today is someone who has not only mastered her craft, but has shown that true strength isn't just physical. It's mental, emotional, and spiritual. And this guest honestly inspired me to become a ground rigger. So I am so excited to have her on the show. Enough about me. Let's get into her. Ladies, let's welcome Allie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much, Allie, for being on the show. So, first of all, how about you tell the ladies a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'd love to. So, my name's Allie Griffin, and I am 31 years old. I work in the live events and entertainment industry, and my occupation title is a machine operator and an event rigger. I've been in the industry since about 2013, where I started working as a stagehand for a local festival called South by Southwest. About a year later is when I kind of developed more of my passion for high steel and rigging and got started out at Circuit of the Americas. For about 4 years after that, I worked as a traveling climber and rigger for some of the largest festivals and live television events in the United States. I work alongside a very highly skilled team of human beings and managed to build some of the tallest and most intricate stage designs that I've ever seen. Some ranging from EDC Vegas and Electric Forest to the Super Bowl even. In 2018, I moved to Austin, settled into the city as a lighting technician and a machine operator, and I currently work for the local IATSE 205, rigging and driving boom lifts, mostly at the convention center and in various hotels and theaters around town. So it's pretty extensive and exciting.
Whoa, Allie, that is amazing. A traveling climber. So what is that? Can you dive into what that is exactly? Just a little bit.
Sure. The best way I could describe it is the company that I worked for had, I guess, a pretty medium-sized group of people that would go from state to state. And we worked with a few other production companies and kind of helped them bring their visions to life. I think the way that they did it is fantastic and still continue to do it because it is the same group of people over and over again. It really gives it a nice flow to the overall operations, as well as having that trust developed, knowing who you're working with and knowing that, you know, the job can be very dangerous and It's important to trust the people that you're working with.
Oh, I 100% agree. Rigging isn't the kind of job where you come in and you just play around with truss tools. It is very serious. So I am so excited to learn more about your career. So we're curious to know what initially inspired you to pursue a career in rigging And how did you get started in such a male-dominated field?
So it's a little bit more innocent. Since I was a kid, I loved climbing. I spent a lot of time outside, climbing trees, climbing jungle gyms, climbing up water towers when I got a little bit older. So once I started to kind of see the more grand vision, I realized that is where I wanted to be. And it was a one-track mind. I mean, seeing the people up there doing what they were doing, it's a completely different perspective. And it removes you from a lot of the chaos that's going on the ground and kind of allows you to step into your own space of solitude. I like the responsibility. I like the consistency of it. It's pretty much the same thing every single time, and pretty dang good at it, if I do say so myself.
I love it. Yes. I've grounded for you before, and it was so amazing working with you because you're like the first female upbringer I've ever worked with. So like to ground for you, it was just an honor. Like that day, it was very special to me.
Girl, we did so good too.
We did such a great job. Everybody was like, oh, look at Allie. She killing it, hitting those points. So I'm curious to know, did you face any self-doubt or hesitations when you starting? And how did you push through that?
Absolutely. As you've said previously, it's definitely a male-dominated industry. And as far as the rigging goes, there's a pretty heavy physical aspect to it. And, sometimes people may view a woman in that position as inadequate or not being able to complete the task because we're weaker or, just not as strong or not as experienced. And it's almost like, well, that's not the truth. I find my own superpowers in being small and being the person who can get into tight spaces and that person who has to think about things from a leverage point of view versus just brute strength, testosterone, everything my way through it. So, a little bit of self-doubt, but the feeling that I get when I'm up there and when I'm off the ground, I haven't been able to find that anywhere else. So there's definitely a lot of motivation there, just doing something different and doing something people told me I probably shouldn't be doing, Yeah. So I'm like, well, watch me.
Watch me do it. You have a little rebel spirit. We love that here on She's Self-Invested because this podcast is all about unconventional women doing empowering things. So, Allie, it seems like you've built some confidence in yourself over time, which we love here once again. So I would love to explore both the practical and personal aspect of growth. So confidence isn't something that comes all at once, right? Can you share with us how you develop that inner belief in your capabilities over time?
That's a good question. I think the confidence really goes hand in hand with experience, right? And surrounding yourself with people who believe in you and believe in your mission and believe that you can do it. Because sometimes you're up there, girl, and the wind comes at a certain angle and you're not expecting it. And I kind of have to sit there and recenter and take a couple of deep breaths and remind myself, like, yes, we can do this. It's okay to pause and it's okay to take your time. And it's okay to work at your own pace and really just being able to shut out a lot of the external pressures from people who maybe their opinions aren't as relevant as they think they may be. There's a lot of noise that you have to cut through. But again, the feeling, it's very gratifying at the end of a shift when everything goes perfectly, or maybe there's some problem solving in there that I was able to kind of help work out or execute some kind of mission in some kind of way that maybe is new and a little bit safer. So it's good. It makes me feel good.
Great. Spoken like a true self-invested woman. Wow, Allie, that is so amazing to hear. It honestly sound like you faced a couple of obstacles whether it was you being underestimated, right? Someone telling you, oh, you can't do that. You did it anyway. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced as a woman in this industry, and how did you overcome them?
It's just a lot of connection and consistency. Just being able to show up as myself, as authentically as I can, and get the work done. You just block it all out and continue on at whatever your pace is. And at the end of the day is the end of the day. But to be able to gain that trust and gain that rapport from, some of our male coworkers, I think it's just consistency and patience. When I was younger, maybe would have had an argumentative bone in my body, but as I've gotten older, I've learned that it's better to just, let people believe what they're going to believe. It's not my job to change their opinions, but if the opinion changes along the way, then that's fantastic, and it's a win for everyone.
I agree. I love that mindset. You're so calm about it. I know who I am. You can tell me whatever, but I'm going to do what I want to do. Love it. So did you ever experience any kind of gender dynamics in the workplace, working alongside men?
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying to find the right word for it while still staying politically correct. But absolutely. I've even been 86 feet off the ground and had someone spit in my face and tell me that I am not allowed in the grid and women don't belong up here. And lo and behold, when we had a weather inclement emergency that came in, guess who was on the ground and guess who went up and dealt with the skins on the stage to make sure that everything was safe? Me, just to answer that question. But see, this is going back to kind of what we were talking about earlier with developing that rapport, right? Because I could have taken that personal, which of course I was upset, but towards the end of that gig, I was able to shake hands with that person and kind of got the accolades of, all right, cool. Not openly admitting that he was wrong or apologizing, but you could tell that there was a shift in the energy, and I still consider that a win.
Oh, baby, that's an absolute win. I love the way you handle that, because you could have reacted, right? You could have got disrespectful with him. You probably could have reported him, got him fired. You ignored that, and you showed him who he was. And at the end of the day, he shook your hand because I respect her. That's amazing. That is amazing to hear. So were there any moments when you felt like giving up? And if so, how did you find the strength to keep going?
Oh, that's a good question, too. I've always found myself to be somebody who kind of needs to go against the grain as far as my occupation goes. And the beautiful thing about this industry is if you get tired of doing one thing, there are a million other aspects of the industry that you could get involved with. And,
that is true.
I kind of just jumped around. I've done a lighting programming and I've done a little bit of audio stuff, working in the hotels. So instead of saying, no, I don't ever want to do this again, it's, well, why don't I take a couple of steps back and maybe build my portfolio a little bit in a different aspect. It's always good to maintain well-roundedness, and I just immerse myself in other projects or switch companies for a little bit or, go on the road or travel. But I am absolutely loving being home in Austin, being off the road. Oh, it's been such a nice shift in dynamic, being able to put some roots down and to feel comfortable and accepted somewhere.
I love that. You seem to be very grounded, and you seem to have found some kind of stability here in Austin, which is amazing. One thing I love about our industry is that you don't have to just do one thing. So that's great that you did immerse yourself in lighting and audio, because that way you're still able to create income and new opportunities for yourself outside of only being a rigger. You're able to be multifaceted, which once again is a blessing that we just happen to have by working in the live event industry. So thank you so much for sharing that. So I want to move forward I want to focus on inspiring the next generation. As someone who has paved the way in this field, how do you feel about being a role model for other women looking to follow a similar path? What does that look like for you?
That's a great question. I feel like I see little bits of that every time that I walk onto a job site, in the aspect, not just with women either, which is so fantastic, but people will approach me and with confidence that they can come to me with questions, and they can come to me with, hey, how would you do this? Or, hey, you remember we were talking about that thing last week? Can you remind me again of this, that, or the other? And it does definitely bring a certain air of confidence to myself that, wow, looking around, people trust me, and they trust my input, and they trust my opinion and my knowledge and my experience so much that, and the fact that I'm not going to patronize them in any kind of way for coming to me. I have a policy. There's no bad questions. And if I have to think of 17 different ways to answer the same question just to help someone understand something, then I'm going to sit there and figure that out. And all that's doing is it's wins for both of us, because now I have 17 different ways that I can explain one thing. And it really is amazing. Getting older is interesting. I definitely do see a lot of the younger up and coming ladies on our rigging team, and it is super inspiring. I do remember myself being in that position. I think I was 19 or 20 years old when I started. And it's nice to kind of hand over the reins, so to speak, and to kind of be more of a wings open and like a guidance kind of person for somebody who might do something really amazing in this industry. So it feels good. Does.
Good. And I still remember the very, very, very first day that I ever said yes to a rigging call. It was the very first day I worked with you. I don't know what happened. I think we were short. Our lead at the time was like, hey, are you interested in being a rigger? You get paid more money. I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, go over to Allie and she'll tell you what to do. And I remember walking up to you, and when I'm like, wait, you're a rigger? Like, and it's how you were just so nice, and you were just so welcoming. And once again, you're the first female rigger that I've ever met. So it was like, she's so nice. And the other guys are like, so like serious. But then like when you started explaining what to do and telling me what to do, I'm like, oh, damn, she's knowledgeable as hell. Like, I want to learn from her. Like, you immediately became a mentor to me, and I don't think you realized it, but you did. And seeing you like pull up those motors, I'm like, this girl is strong. Oh my God. Like, just seeing it, it was amazing. And I'm like, I want to do this. Even though when I went home that day, my body was a little sore, because I've never like used that much upper body strength, but seeing you, right? Because that's what it's about. That we just need to see one person doing it. When I seen you do it, you already told me that I can do it. And I gained my self-belief just from that one day of working with you. So I'm pretty sure every other woman that sees you, they feel the same way. They're like probably honored to work alongside you, because you don't even understand what you're doing just by showing up, being kind, being confident, being knowledgeable, getting a job done. Love it. I've loved seeing it.
I do appreciate that so much. And I really loved that you touched on the kindness, because I feel like that's something that I try to bring with me every single time I show up on a job site. There are not as many people, from my experience, who can communicate with patience and kindness. And I've even been fired from jobs before because I was told that I don't have it in me to be in a leadership position because I don't yell and scream.
Wow.
And I don't know how to, get on people's heels and bite the back of their feet. But from my perspective, the job was still getting done. Everything was still going flawlessly. Everything was moving in an accurate fashion. and well. I mean, I felt good about it, but what that means is now they have somebody who's bringing a different approach to their company and a different wind to their company, and maybe they're not ready for that level of change, right? So I was upset about it, but you can't really hold on to those things for too long because ultimately what it is a redirect. It's just not where I was supposed to be. Wasn't really with people who shared the same vision. So kindness and compassion, that's huge for me.
Oh my God. Allie, you're killing me right now. You're just so amazing. I love how you said you just took that as a redirection. You could have been like, okay, well, I'm not meant to be a rigger. I'm not mean. I'm not. No. And not only that, you stayed in your femininity. You did not allow someone to tell you who to be and how to do it. You found an unconventional way in their eyes and you still got it done. And look at you working in Austin. I really believe that we work with some amazing people. Me personally, most of the people there are very kind, willing to help, and non-judgmental. And I just feel like the kindness within you fits perfectly. You're exactly where you're meant to be at, working with the
team
people
is
that you're
so
meant
diverse.
to be in.
And it is so nice that you mentioned that too, because it's hard to find, from my perspective, from my point of view, from my experience, right? I have not seen such high levels of synergy, right? So I feel very comfortable and I feel supported. And I look around and I see a whole team of other women that are just as strong as I am. And it's so nice that our lead for our rigging team sees the value in having women around, because I think that Travis gets a lot of flack from people, what the opinions are, what people say. And it's not often good things. So it's nice to see somebody who can stand up for going against the grain and really have our backs and say, no, look at what I've created. I mean, stand in the middle of this and tell me that this is not right, because all I see is perfection.
Oh, you're preaching, girl. You're preaching on this podcast. Let me tell you something before we move on to the next question. One day I was working with Travis, and I think I was literally at the very, very, very beginning of learning about rigging. So I think I was still kind of doing stagehand work, but he was training me at the same time. And I want to say a couple days after that, he started giving me ground rigging roles. So one of the guys that worked at the convention center, he stopped me. He was like, my God, I cannot believe how strong you are for a woman. I'm like, what? He was like, aren't you doing rigging work? I'm like, yeah. He was like, yeah, but you're a woman. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. So I walked off from that. I ignored it. And I kind of pulled our lead aside and I told him, I was just like, you know what this guy just told me? So we're discussing it. And he said, let me tell you something. I do not ask people to become riggers based on their sex. I ask people to become riggers based on their skill set, based on their confidence, based on if they're a fast learner, their intelligence. Do you work well with the team? He was like, so that's why I asked you. When he told me that, when I tell you the respect that I have for this man is, my God, it is, it's out of this world. The fact that he continues to bring in new female riggers. It's amazing. Amazing. He doesn't care what people think or what they say. The fact that he continues to diversify the team and he enjoys it. And I love how selective he is on bringing people on to become a rigger and to work for him. So when I tell you, just him and other guys that we work with alongside make me feel comfortable and confident every day I show up to rig. It's amazing. What advice do you give to young women interested in entering rigging or other male-dominated fields?
That's a good one. Walk with compassion, but carry a big stick. Be confident. Educate yourself. Know who you are and know what you have to bring, and go for it. Just go for it. I mean, the worst thing that happens is it doesn't work out, and then like maybe that's not for me, but there is the off chance that it is for you and that it lights something inside of you that you maybe didn't know was even there. Like with me, it changed my entire life.
Aww.
It really is. It's an amazing thing to be a part of. And there is a special sense of gratification doing something that, not a lot of women really do.
Wow, Allie, I agree with that. If you feeling good about something and you don't know what it is, I always believe in following your intuition because your gut won't lie to you. You won't lie to yourself. Thank you for sharing that advice. Earlier, we touched on kindness and compassion, right? And I love how you remain feminine within this very masculine role. I'm curious to know, how do you balance and embrace your femininity working in such a physically demanding, often gritty role?
See, femininity, I think that it's so crucial to bring that air of woman into our industry because we just have a different perspective. We have a different way of approaching things. We have a certain level of calm and patience that we bring to the table that, maybe some of our male counterparts are a little more hot-headed about. It does make for nice client face-to-face reactions and interactions and, just having that almost mama bear energy. It's so important to have around. Even just having one lady on the team can shift the dynamics of what's going on with your entire operation. I mean, we're softer. We have a different way of thinking that it's so integral and it's so critical. And I mean, I really think on a spiritual level, that's kind of what we're here doing right now is how do we intermingle the masculine and the feminine back together? And how do we kind of highlight some of the strengths of both of those two things coming together? And what are the weaknesses and how can we work on it?
Well said. I love that. So personally for me, when I first started working in a male-dominated industry, I started out working in film. And it kind of confused me because I was very, I guess you can say, traditionally feminine before I started working in these kind of industries. I've always worn makeup, right? I've always had my nails done. My hair always changed. So when I started working in the industry, I'm like, oh no, I can't come here looking like this. So it kind of was confusing of just like, how do I show up? And then for me, I had to realize being feminine isn't about looks. It's about energy, like you said. And I feel like as long as I allow myself to tap into my compassion, my kindness, my nurturing side, I am being feminine. And believe it or not, personally for me, once I moved to Austin and started working in the live event industry, specifically when I actually got more into rigging, that's when I found my version of femininity. Because we work around a lot of traditionally masculine guys to where it's like they respect us enough to let us pick up heavy things and do it, but also, no, I got it. Like, let's work as a team. Let's work together. That is where the true femininity and masculine dynamic comes in, when you can balance them both from both sexes. So every time I clock on and I come to work, I feel so much like a woman, even though I'm doing like such masculine things, right? I feel I'm truly my feminine 100%. I feel good coming there.
It really does go to show there is a place for women at every table. And it should have always been that way. And, it might have taken a little bit longer than we would have liked to get to that space of leveling out with our male counterparts. But it's very interesting to be able to see the growth and the change that's happening. Yeah, it's great.
I 100% agree. Speaking of growth and change in the industry, I want to move forward to, let's talk about the vision for the future, encouraging women in this industry. I'm curious to know, because we talk about this at work, about like empowering more women to rig and like how we should have more women joining the union as riggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your vision for women in our industry moving forward? How can we create more spaces for women to thrive in these technical roles?
I think just rewriting the narrative is critical, and having people who are male that do see our potential, like Travis. I mean, I keep coming back to him because he is the perfect example of a supporter, right? Somebody who sees this greater vision and sees how things can play out and sees the benefit of having a diverse team. I would like it to be more 50-50. I would like it to be where you don't even think about it at all. Like, to not even be a topic of discussion anymore. Like, it's just so normalized that this is how it is now, right? And like, we think back on how things were and say, oh my goodness, we were so absurd. Like, how could they have ever, operated in this kind of way? Like, what could they have accomplished if things were different? And how much further along would we be now as a society?
I agree. I definitely agree. And I truly hope that more men in these lead rigging roles can take some form of inspiration from our lead to see what he's doing and to see the impact that he is making on this industry. I don't know, no matter if he realizes it or not, he's creating a huge change. One day I was working on a show, and this girl came up to me, and she had everything that you need to be a rigger, right? She was just like so excited. And she was asking me questions about how I started and stuff. And then she started sharing stuff about herself. She mentioned to me how she's trying to get on at another company, but it's arena rigging. And the only thing is there's only one female rigger, which is, I believe it was her sister or I believe it was either her sister or a friend of hers. And she was just saying how much of a challenge it is to even get women on where she rigs at. And that's all I can think to myself was, I am so happy that I work for someone like Travis. Like, we don't have these kind of like issues where we're begging and pleading to join and to rig, where it's like, he has the talent of seeing things in others that people can't see, right? And that's one thing I do admire about him. Like, the certain people that he pulls to rig is just like, And then you see them do a great job and you're like, okay, that's why I can't question him. The man knows. He knows. So it is very much an interesting perspective.
It's like watching him create his own legacy.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so perfect.
Especially with Jessie. Oh my God. She is amazing. She has such a wonderful mind, and she's so well spoken and confident, and she carries herself with just so much grace and really has the ability to just shut everything else out except for exactly what she's supposed to be working on. And I think that's so admirable. And she's a huge inspiration to me, even myself.
Yes.
And I agree with you, too. I do feel very honored to be with a more progressive rigging team because the longer we're together, the more I realize it's just an old mentality. And it's not rooted in fact, and it's not rooted in truth.
I agree. And I'm happy we brought up Jessie. She's actually part of my inspiration as well. Originally, when I started working in a union, Jessie was only doing audio. She hadn't even started rigging yet. As time passed by, when I seen her rigging, I'm like, wait, what are you doing? You told me you're in audio. Like, I was confused.
Okay, you're switching up now.
Exactly. She was like, yeah, well, I'm learning about this. I believe she took the class, and she was like, this is what she's doing currently. I'm like, wait, you can do that? Like, I didn't even know that you can transition like that, because I'm so ignorant to the live event industry. Once again, I'm coming from film, where it's like, so don't get me wrong, like, people switch roles in the film industry, but it isn't as easy as it is in live events, where you can just say, I want to learn about this, and you do it. So I think by me starting out in sound, and she was doing that initially when I met her, and to see her switch to rigging, I'm like, oh, I can do that too. It's small things like that it's so inspiring. And I don't even think she realized how inspiring that is. And she's very graceful. She's amazing to work with. I love Jessie. She's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And just so knowledgeable. And I know we see her a lot at the convention center, but her knowledge when it comes to theatrical rigging and like the fly rail systems it's beyond me.
Really?
I mean, she is a rock star, and I absolutely love working around her, and I love working around you too. And I could just sit here and list them all off, but it makes me feel excited for the future.
Me too. You know what? Since we're on a topic of being excited for the future, let's get into empowering women. What would you say is the most important thing companies and the industry can do to empower more women to join these roles? What do you think?
See, I think a critical difference between the other company we may have mentioned prior and the organization that we work for is our organization, our union, is rooted in education. I mean, we are on top of it. Anything you want to learn, all you have to do is bring it up to the right person and they organize a class for it. And it bewilders me sometimes how gatekept our rigging industry is in general. I mean, yes, it's physically strenuous, but the root of the job is pretty simplistic, right? It's not as complicated or crazy as people may think. So I do appreciate the union's direction and support towards educating the people that they employ to make sure that we're all kind of where we want to be. Yes. Advice for other companies: get on top of your education. If you are short people, put a class together. Get some of the people that you know are your top people and organize. Put it together. Give the information to the younger people coming in, because you're not going to be able to keep that job forever.
No.
And it's up to us to train the people that will eventually replace us. I mean, that is just the natural course of things. And to be against that is to be against growth.
Allie, to be against that is to be against growth. I love that. You hit the nail on the coffin with that one. And I agree. Once again, I'm still new to this industry. I didn't realize how gatekept it was and how male-dominated it was until I started talking to most riggers. So one guy that, honestly, if it was not for him, I really would not probably be rigging, is Mike.
Yes.
When I tell you, this man, amazing. So when I first joined the union, once again, I didn't know anything about the live event industry. So I'm curious, right? I just asked him any And one day I picked up a stagehand call. Didn't know what it was. So ignorant. And I'm just standing around and I see at that point, like Mike was just like chilling, waiting. I think he was waiting for like trust to go up. And I just started asking him like, hey, what do you do? Blah, 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 blah. And he's just educating me on being a rigger. He's like, yeah, would you ever want to do this? I'm like, oh, probably not. I told him no. I was like, nah, I'm not interested in this. Looks too physical. So then as a couple of months passed, our lead Travis asked me like, hey, do you want to help out today because we're shorthand? And I was like, yes. So eventually over time, when I started finding a love for rigging, I love the art of learning something new. I love the challenge in it. I believe Travis told me, he just ended up telling me, he was like, yeah, Hempstead actually recommended you. And I was like, what? But he was like, yeah. I was like, I've never known that. Ever since that day, the love and respect that I have for him, it's unmatched. So when I was working with him 2 days ago, when he was actually showing me how to hang points and stuff, and he was just like, you need to learn this. This is important for you moving forward. The fact that he was okay with passing a torch to a woman, not a man, to a woman, that just shows the diversity in our particular field and our particular union. It's just amazing. Like, that's why, like, when I hear stories of women bashing their male coworkers and, oh, I'm getting mansplained, I'm dealing with this. I'm so blessed that I do not deal with that at work. Like, the men we work with, most of them very, very empowering, very thoughtful. They're ready to teach and train. Like, they're amazing. And I only have good things to say about all of them. I just had to say this because when I tell people about this podcast and what I'm doing, they immediately think, oh, you're bashing men. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If anything, we're doing the opposite. I'm lifting them up.
See, I do like that too, because we're not bashing men. It's the opposite. We're highlighting men who share the same vision and share the same ideals that you and I have been discussing. Mm-hmm. And somebody like Mike, he comes from areas where even their unions percentages, I mean, we're looking at a 1 to 3% female ratio for the entire organization, not even just the rigging team, right? So to see this level of diversity, I know I keep bringing up that word, but
yeah,
it's so inspiring. It makes me feel so much hope for the future. And just to be able to be a part of that growth and see what it could actually look like, it's an amazing thing.
I agree. And I am also thankful for our union to be so diverse. And we're going to bring that word up, but it's very important, right? It's important to have diversity within these fields. And I say this because when I worked in the film industry, I was the only woman of color in my department. And I felt uncomfortable, you know, because it was a little frightening because it's like, oh, well, are they going to judge me? Like, am I going to experience racism? Like, what's going to happen? So to move from the film industry to dive into the live event industry and to walk in to the convention center where kind of, again, right, I am the only woman of color. But one thing I will say, Allie, I've never felt like I'm just a Black woman working as a rig. Never. You guys have never made me feel uncomfortable. And that's why I love showing up, coming to work every day, being with you guys, because y'all have created a safety. I believe this union has created a safe space for women who look like me to just come there, thrive, and learn. I love what I do. And I love the people that I'm meeting along the way.
And I love that you're a part of it. I love that you're with us. And I love that I've gotten an opportunity to get to know you and to get closer to you and to kind of learn more about you. I think that what you're doing is very critical. It's crucial. And, you know, to anyone out there who's listening, thank you. Thank you for supporting this and supporting this channel and supporting her show. And God, I'm getting a little emotional, but I can't wait to see your growth. I mean, this is huge. And I know you're tired, girl. I know you're tired. And it's such an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to have you. Like, I would have never imagined I would be interviewing you on this podcast. It's crazy. Allie, your story shows that strength is quiet yet unstoppable. Thank you for reminding us all that no matter the field, there's always room for women to rise, grow, and make their mark in their industry. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just have patience with yourself. Be kind to yourself first, right? Make sure that you are okay with who you are. And if you're not, change it up. Get creative. You are your own greatest work of art, and you're a constant work in progress. And it is a beautiful thing to kind of be in this space of like, well, I don't even really know.
Yeah.
That just means that you get to find out pretty soon. And there's always something beautiful out there to be seen. You just have to be looking.
Ooh, you just have to be looking. I love that. Well, Allie, that is the end. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for finding the time to come on She Self-Invested and to speak to the audience. And ladies, I truly hope that you guys have taken in a lot of what Allie has said. And I hope that her story has inspired you and empowered you to thrive in your chosen male-dominated field. And know that you can embrace both your strength and femininity. You do not have to choose who to become. The only thing I ask for you is to be who you are and show up 100% as that person.
Authenticity. It's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us on this inspiring journey with our very first guest of the season, where we explored new ways to empower women in male-dominated fields. Allie's story reminds us that confidence, resilience, and growth are all within our reach, no matter the industry. We hope you're feeling motivated to rise above your own challenges and create your own path. And don't forget to stay tuned for next week's guest as we continue to dive into more stories of strength and self-investment. See you soon on She Self Invested.